Hey guys, so I want to talk about Back to the Future, specifically Back to the Future 3. I was watching it, it's on Netflix, all three of them, so if you haven't seen it, any of them, go watch it on Netflix, come back, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. So, Back to the Future, as you can see, it's got the DeLorean. The Doc, who is played by Christopher Lloyd, invents a time machine out of a DeLorean, and think of it like, well, actually, you really can't. I mean, the DeLorean, this time machine kit only seems to go in the area that they live in, Hill Valley. Where I was going to say, think of it like Doctor Who. No, this is a car that only travels to like the past, present, and future of Hill Valley. It doesn't seem to go anywhere else. But then again, that's probably Marty's fault. But one of the one of the best lines in the first movie is, "Doc, are you telling me you made a time machine out of a DeLorean?" And then he's like, "The way I figure it, if you're gonna travel through, make a time machine out of a car, why not do it with some style?" DeLoreans were really big back then, especially because the creator, person who made them, had like drug charges, and so people were really wanting DeLoreans. But they're really cool cars. They've got the eagle, or what is it, like the gull wings? How you like see seagulls and they're like this, and their wings are. So you have the opens like that instead of a traditional door like that. So there was a lot of appeal. People are still getting DeLoreans today and decking them out to look like the Back to the Future DeLorean with the time circuits, the flux capacitor, and all that. So if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't seen them, go watch them. They're really, really good. The effects are pretty choppy compared to what they are now, but it's back in the 80s, so it's gonna look a little fake. But they still hold up really well. They're really fun to watch, and it's like I want to watch them like once a week or so. That's just how good they are. But I was watching Back to the Future 3, and there's a line, and I sat there and I wondered, like, well, why didn't he? So for people who are wondering what line, so Back to the Future 3 has Marty going back to 1885 to rescue Doc, who got sent back to 1885 when the DeLorean was struck by lightning, and he was sent back to 1885. The time circuits are all crazy enough, and the destination was 1885, not by choice, it was messing up apparently, but because of that, as soon as the DeLorean struck by lightning, off it went back to 1885. Marty gets a letter from the Doc saying that he's living happily in 1885 as a blacksmith, and blah blah blah. So he goes back to find Doc, who had just witnessed him going back into 1985. He finds Doc. Doc faints because it's like, "Oh, I just sent you back to the future," and Marty's all like, "I am, you did, but I'm back from the future." And he's like, "Great Scott," and he falls on the ground. That's where the movie picks up. We're at Doc's house. So all this leads up to blasting the mine where the DeLorean is hidden. So at the end, they find the DeLorean. They figure out what they have to do. And on the way out, Copernicus, who is Doc's dog at the time, before Einstein, is in front of a grave, and it says Emmett Brown, 1885, shot in the back by Buford 10 over the matter of $80. And yeah, so Marty gets the idea of going back into the past in 1885 and bringing Doc back. And what he does when he finally gets by Doc, he's rescued by Doc after he's pretty much being hung. They get back to his lab. He shows Doc the picture, and he's like, "Shot in the back by Buford Tanner with the amount of $80. What kind of retirement is that? I wish I, And then he says something about like, "I wish I would just paid him off," meaning he wished he would have just paid the $80 that he owed. So that's the line. It says, "I wish I would have just paid him off." So why didn't he? After knowing that he was going to be shot, why not just say, "You know what?" Because we know Doc has the money. He had the DeLorean, and inside the DeLorean is a briefcase, and you open it up, and there's all matters of money in there, from different time periods. In Back to the Future 2, he gave Marty a $20 bill in the 50s to get some 50s clothes, and I love that scene. He like slides onto screen. He's like, Doc, Doc, come in, Doc, and he's got like dark shades on. He's got like the hat and leather jacket. One of the it makes no sense, but he's just like, Doc, Doc, come in, Doc. So we know he has the money to do it. So why not just say, hey, I'm going to pay him the $80 and prevent it? So the story of the $80 is Buford Tannen, Mad Dog, went to Doc and wanted his horse shoed. Horse to prevent their hooves from, wearing down. They put the horseshoes on them so that way it's a lot easier for them to go certain terrains and stuff like that without wearing the bottoms down. So he does that, but then Buford never pays him. Now, I don't know how much it was to shoe a horse. I've been trying to find it, but I can't get a straight answer. So if you know, there's two prices I'll need to know from you guys, because I've looked and I can't find a straight answer. So one, how much was it to shoe a horse in the 1800s? So let me know below, because I see it all over. I'm seeing people talk about how much the horse was and this and that. I'm not seeing anything about shoeing a horse. And then we'll get to that second price in a second. So Buford goes to him, wants his horse shoed, and I don't know if it was negligence due to, Buford. I mean, I don't know if he said outright that I'm not paying you or whatever, but Doc didn't do the job correctly. Buford's on his horse. The horse throws the shoe, causing Buford to catapult off horse, falls to the ground, and that causes him to, what he says, to bust a perfectly good bottle of fine Kentucky Red Eye, which is whiskey. So he says, the way I see it, you owe me $5 for the whiskey and $75 for the horse. So I looked up whiskey prices, and same thing, it's varying. I see, it's like $2 to $3 per gallon, $2 for like really cheap whiskey, up to $10 for a fine, premium bottle. Then they say like in saloons it was different. It's like 50 cents per shot. So it's all over the place. So if you know how, like, just a bottle, assuming because he was on his horse and he probably wasn't carrying a huge bottle, assume the bottle was maybe about big, enough to travel to get his fix, but not enough to where it would, be big enough to break every time the horse went along. So yeah, if you guys happen to know how much a bottle about big was in the 1880s, let me know, because that'd be something I would love to know. But so he says $5 for the whiskey, $75 for the horse. Now, like I said, why didn't Doc just pay him after he found out what was going to happen? Now, I've seen online, people are like, well, he probably would have shot Doc anyway, or, maybe he would have asked for more the next time. It's like, the way I see it, Buford didn't have any quarrels with Doc in the first place. They didn't seem to have any, at all until this whole throwing of the shoe. So I think if Doc had just said, you know what, you're right, and honor that whole, despite the fact that Buford didn't pay in the first place, so technically Doc really doesn't owe him, but he kind of does since he didn't do the job correctly. So even if Buford paid him, it would have happened. So he would have spent whatever amount of money to shoe the horse, and then it still would have thrown the shoe. So it still would have happened. So I'm kind of siding with Buford on this. I'm sure there's some kind of technicality. Like I said, I don't know if Doc did it just because it was him and he just didn't want to do it correctly, thinking, oh, well, I'm just not going to shoe the horse properly. What could happen? Well, the horse threw the shoe. That's what happened. So I'm kind of in between. But why didn't Doc just pay him off? They're trying to get back to the future, and then the entire time they're worried about Buford coming after them. Why not just pay him off, have it be done, and then you can just not worry about it the rest of the time? I mean, it seems pretty fair. Like Buford did have a tendency to shoot people, and he liked shooting people. But as I said, since this was his first quarrel and it wasn't any kind of major thing, I don't see him being so stupid and out of control to just shoot Doc after giving him money or something like that. Um, so, but yeah, like I said, why didn't he just pay him off? So that's just one of those things I was thinking about. There's a lot of things in Back to the Future that don't make sense, that people try to explain. Back to the Future 2, spoiler alert, Biff from the future, old Biff, goes into the past after Marty buys the almanac. He gives the almanac to his old self, his 1955 self. He wins lots and lots of money by betting on horse races and stuff like that, becomes a millionaire, and he essentially turns Hill Valley into a giant, like, Las Vegas type area. You got a big tower, Biff Tower and stuff like that. But when he goes back to 2015, he starts getting out of the DeLorean, and he's trying to pull his cane out, and it looks like it hits him or something, and he's by a car, and he's like looking around and seeing them get back into the DeLorean, and then he falls over in pain. Well, there's a deleted scene where we see him fade away. So people are like, well, why is he fading away? Apparently there's another deleted scene that no one's seen, but it does exist apparently, where Lorraine shoots him in 1996. That's 1996 of the timeline that we saw, where he has power and he's married to Lorraine, who is Marty's mom. So apparently after him gaining so much power and being abusive and just being an all-around bad person, she gets tired of his shit and shoots him, causing him to erase from time. Because this was 2015 Biff, so if Biff in 1996 gets shot, then obviously he can't be an old man in 2015 because he doesn't exist anymore. There's also a Back to the Future comic where Doc sends him back to 1885 and he gets shot by Buford. It's pretty funny. But yeah, and his fading away is a little different compared to Marty's, where there was levels. Marty, before he was fading away, it had to go through his brother and sister first. He was the youngest, so it had to affect them first. So by the time he was fading away, everything was pretty much falling into place the way it should. His parents finally kissed. Boom, he comes back, and he's not fading out anymore. Biff, he gets shot. There's there was nothing to go through. He gets shot. Boom, he dies. Fades away. Then there was people asking about the train at the end of Back to the Future 3, about how it was how did Doc make an entire train into a time machine if he's still stuck in the past? And I mean, he says it runs on steam, and so. But yeah, I just want to talk about Back to the Future. Yeah, it's just a really good movie. You guys should watch it. Really, just go watch it right now. It's great. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that. It was just one of those things. It's well, why didn't he just pay him off? If you got a theory about it, or a Back to the Future theory, or something to point out that you've noticed that maybe no one else has, because you find something every time you watch these movies, and that's what's great about them. But yeah, if you guys can let me know about the prices of those things, because like I said, I've looked it up and I can't get a straight answer. I've looked on YouTube and can't get an answer there. So if you guys happen to know the price of shoeing a horse back in the 1800s, and the price of a bottle of whiskey maybe that big, let me know. But yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.